Good afternoon. My name is Vladimir Lazarev, and the plan today is to discuss something I consider very interesting, which is crypto fraud, threats and trends related to the emerging technologies. Naturally, technologies are developing very fast, and new fraud patterns are emerging. Fraudsters tend to be very technologically advanced. They are happily embracing all the newfangled phenomena in the tech world. So the plan today is that we shall look into some of those interesting threats we are seeing. I'm the managing partner of AML Crypto. What we do is run crypto investigations, and we also develop tools that will thwart money laundering through crypto. It's like every month that we see a huge number of crypto frauds, and we get about 160 inquiries per month, which certainly helps us see how this industry evolves and which tools are getting used by the fraudsters. So as we do that, we get to talk to the victims, and also sometimes we get exposed to the fraudsters themselves. So now, let's take a dive into this world and let's reconsider the Maslow pyramid from the viewpoint of fraudsters. So what comes first to them is financial security. At this stage, they're testing their hypothesis, and their fraud patterns are pretty primitive. They are not employing any advanced algorithms. Now, the second stage is related to operational and technical resources. At this stage, they're already thinking about how they're going to collaborate and communicate, if it's not just a single actor, and how they're going to communicate with the potential victims. So they are thinking about how they can stay safe while also going about their business. Now, the next stage is anonymity and safety. So once they've tested their hypothesis, once they have addressed their communication needs, they start considering how they can secure themselves. So they start looking into communications and money laundering and dedicated devices, all those things that increase their chances of not being nabbed. So we're talking about digital hygiene here. Now, the next stage is manipulation, or controlling their victim. So at this stage, you often see them duping their victims several times. This is something we have seen quite a number of times, that, the same threat actor dupes the same victim 2, 3, maybe even 4 times. And the last stage involves the perpetrators sort of boasting about what they've done, because they also want recognition in their own professional community, that is. So they will be using some of the best tools out there, including CRM systems, meaning they tend to be thinking a lot about the best way to process their leads, because they've got their own sales funnel, and they also track conversion ratios. Naturally, the specific funnel will depend on the kind of scheme they are doing, but, the same stages are there as well. So at the lead generation stage, obviously they are trying to increase the sheer size of the funnel. The next stage is lead classification. That is, they look at the potential value of the target, whether the target falls within their target audience or not. The next stage is engagement. It's the whole business here is about trust. So they are trying to leverage the communications, the amount of trust they have already been able to generate. And the information they have collected certainly helps them a lot. Next, they make the offer, because they need to persuade the person to hand their money over, and they often need to overcome the objections, because people have heard a lot about fraud and they don't want to be duped. And finally, they close the deal. At this stage, fraudsters try to extricate as much money as possible from their victims. There will be changes depending on the kind of scheme we're looking at, but this is the general structure here.
The actors would do their best to get as much money as possible from the victim. And of course, the scheme would differ and the funnel would differ, but they will do their best to manage and monitor all these stages of the funnel. We had a group of criminals working for sized at about 500 people. They had sales team managers, all the organization structure. They were built quite well, and the money laundering was well defined and used the number of schemes. So people went through all the stages of organizational maturity, and same as many businesses. The actors would have issues like people issues, lack of sales force, for example, especially hiring people when they know they will be lying to your clients is quite problematic because they don't trust you, right? So they are trying to find a way to solve this, and the solution they find is usually technological, generative AI. AI talks different languages. It opens new capabilities in terms of scaling of their topics. AI knows a lot of things. So and that's how they build trust. We are built in a way that to create that trust, we need to talk to the other person and talk on different topics. So the AI would, be ideal here. It doesn't sleep. It doesn't need to, to take food. So in terms of the actors, the AI is a great tool. Unfortunately, it's even much smarter than most of the human beings, at least the ones they can attract. And also, it helps them to do one thing, to use the data sets that the actors have via the API. So, of course, what are those data sets? The scripts that they use to communicate to a lot of people. The most successful cases would be implemented and successful scripts would be scaled. And of course, data leaks. There's no surprise then. Any person knowing, his or her phone number, you would get a lot of different information on the person. Imagine the AI is fed all those personal data. And imagine the AI knows how to speak and is capable of communicating. So social engineering, the actions targeted at getting something from a person, plus a lot of data, and minus, any consciousness. So it's a great tool to lie to people. And that's the reality. An important point here is that the social engineering magic is about trust, because the main cornerstone of any fraud is trust. So the actors would use social engineering to create trust, to get the needed information, to make the victim do specific things that move them closer to the end of the funnel, be it getting money, getting information, or getting new participants in the scheme. And of course, there's a lot of cases that I can cover, but I will choose some, putting a lot of focus on the things that have to do with social engineering. We had a case with a person participating in a very interesting fraud. One of the days, he's leading a big company. A person pings him, asking for a job. The person was quite knowledgeable about the company and about the person itself, so he demonstrated very actively the interest to the job. And it's nice to see people interested, right? So they want to help you, and that creates a lot of trust. So the victim was surprised with the amount of knowledge and interest and answering the questions. So the person would ask a lot of questions about the business processes, about communications, about the procurement process from China, etc. How do you pay? How can I, as a manager, communicate? And what would be my role? Okay, so I come to you and I serve a specific order. So where do you send it? How do you pay? And etc. So it's a tough time in the world currently. So how do you do the transborder payments? So you use the crypto. Okay, yeah. And is it on my side, on your side? So what's the name of the accountant? So those questions were used to get a lot of information on the company. And of course, then he created a Telegram account with the same avatar as the general manager, and knowing who does what in the company, he used that channel to communicate to the accountants and other people, saying, yeah, you need to send this amount of money to the vendor, cryptocurrency. And that was the reason why the company sent a huge amount of crypto to a specific account. That's how it's done. They create trust, they play with our weak spots, and make us think that everything will be all right in the end. And a very popular fraud scheme currently is romantic fraud. We all meet each other, we all like to meet through the internet. It's a useful tool, but there's a lot of potential for fraud here. When you meet a nice girl on the internet, she starts to talk to you, then she would play your masculine ego and ask, why don't you know anything about crypto? Let's invest. There's a lot of possibilities, engaging father and uncle or friend. Like they would say, why do you invest only $1,000? Like you are trying to date my daughter, and let's go bigger. And all those things come into play here. An important point here is how the technology amplifies this story. Because when we meet a person, we are interested in understanding the person, right? So at least you Google them, and you would find a live profile, like on the Instagram, with lots of photos, lots of videos, and a lot of followers. So at some point you think, yeah, this is a real person. And we had cases where people using AI would create huge amounts of photos, videos, upload them, and people would think that those photos and videos are real. So the actors would mix those stories of using the technologies with the old schemes of fraud to just amplify them. Another interesting case that has happened recently is with a company from Hong Kong losing $26 million. How did that happen? Financial team employee has received an invitation for a video call from his colleagues, one of the top managers from Great Britain. And after he came to that video call, there were not only the colleagues, but also a number of top managers of the company. Everybody was talking to him, and they used the deepfake to create, that board. So the only real person on the call was that guy from the financial team. And he was explained that he needs to make specific financial transactions for $26 million. And it even took some time to understand and, publicize this, because he understood that he was lied to in a week after what has happened. So here is how deepfakes, putting another face on the perpetrator's body, would be used. So you think that you talk to the real people. Of course, technologies would, work would not work ideally in this sense. The video quality would be non-ideal, but you can always mask it or explain it in some way. So let's not forget how people are easy to lie to. Because if a famous person says something from the stage, owning a lot of things, a lot of businesses, would talk to about some unique possibilities, opportunities, then of course we would wish to join and use it. And if it's not real time, if it's prepared beforehand, then the technologies would work even better. And with the famous people, that happens very often. So those fraud schemes would mean that people would hack someone's account and send the message from, for example, from Elon Musk, saying that, yeah, we will double the amount. So now, instead of creating the text message, they would send you a video. And that would create more trust. One more thing that happened with me recently. I like the scheme a lot. So, a working day, I check my work email, and I get a message from the prosecutor's office. And they say I am participant of a case, and I have to learn the details of the case. So they prepared very well. They worked a lot to maybe using my phone number or email that was everywhere, and maybe the address. They took the passport number, everything, my interest. So people really prepared very well, adding the details to the text, saying, go to Vladimir and ask him, ask him to participate. So they had a link, and they wanted me to follow that link. And, as a fraudster scheme, that was, very interesting to me. They got a lot of information about me, and because of the fear of, the authorities, and if the central bank writes something to me, that's definitely something important, and there's a lot of fraud schemes using that, like communicating with a victim, running some actions. And AI in that sense is very creative, because they can help you create a lot of content. And of course everybody would use them, and the hackers would also do it. And fraud is a two-edged sword. It can be on both the good side and the evil side. So fighting fraud is always sword and shield. It's always a standoff that never ends. The more effective the attack becomes, the more effective the defense becomes. So let me tell you about how we use investigation techniques with social engineering during the fraud investigation. There's a lot of cases like that, but they differ in a way. And in 2021, we had a client complaining about significant amount of money being stolen, and the scheme was simple. The person wanted to exchange one crypto to another crypto. He found the Telegram group with OTC exchange, people exchanging between each other, peer-to-peer, found the ad that was interesting, and because they didn't know each other, the other person suggested that let's use, some third party. For example, there's a person in this chat with, 1 million positive reviews. There's a lot of people who ran the deals through them, and of course, let's use him. The person said, yeah, okay. He sent the amount of money to the third party, and that was it. So all that amount of money was lost. Of course, the group was fake, the reviews were fake, and the third party, of course, also was fake. And everything belongs to one person. How did we learn it? A little bit later. First of all, we started with blockchain analysis. That's what we know how to do. We had a look at where the money moved. We found the exchange where the money was sent to, and we asked the police to work with the exchange. Usually they collaborate, but sometimes they don't. And in this case, they said, no, we are not giving you the details. So that could be the end of the story, right? The person has lost many tens of thousands of dollars. But in about 7 months, the hacker made a mistake. Talking about Maslow pyramid, when they move between those stages on the Maslow pyramid, there are different mistakes they make. And instead of creating new addresses, he used the old address, and we are, of course, setting up the alerts to notify us about the motions of funds. Just $5, a small amount. So he was, too lazy to create another account on the exchange. So 7 months have passed. He wasn't found. So he thought he's safe, and that has given us a new thread in the blockchain that allowed us to identify a person who was collaborating with the hacker. And because we gather a lot of data about blockchain addresses, we de-anonymize all of them. This allowed us to understand who was interacting with that person. And of course, we contacted that person and explained the case to him, explained our interest, and the person would say, yeah, definitely I'm happy to give you the details. So here is whom I worked with. And this is how we got the Telegram account. And of course, they were right to create the accounts for the time of the fraud, and then they deleted them. But now we had a new Telegram account, the used one, the active one. And after analyzing that account, we found it on one of the forums on the Bali, selling the bicycle. And we were happy to, of course, find the bicycle and said, okay, yeah, we want to buy it. This is, by the way, the photo of it. Of course, we are not in Bali, and for that case, we would travel there even, and we sent a message to him, a little bit of social engineering, a little bit of trust building. How are you? What do you do? We are doing HR, recruitment, and are you interested in a job? Oh, you are interested in blockchain. Wow, fun. Great bicycle. So don't sell the bicycle to anyone. We will send you the advance payment. And what are your cards? Oh, okay. You're from Russia. Good. Do you have Sberbank accounts? Give us the full account data, so we will send you a bank transfer, rubles to rubles. That's how we got all the data. A little bit of magic, a little bit of async, and we see citizen of Belarus that moved to Bali, that we packed into a report. So instead of us, the police would go from Indonesia to buy the bicycle, and then the victim was happy about the consequence and the results. So those are the things I wanted to tell you about the cases that we have as part of our work. And during the audit, Usually we are working a lot to structure the schemes for the fraud schemes that we share with the authorities, and there are about 20 of them with small modifications. And actually, the actors are very advanced. If we could use their energy to do good, that would be perfect. Unfortunately, they chose the wrong side. But for honest people, there's one thing to know. Yes, we can become the victims. Yes, there are things that did not exist previously, but now will lead to you losing your money. But actually, the actors are also people, and they also make mistakes. And in many cases, those mistakes, those lack of discipline is leading to de-anonymizing of people. I had a tough case with a very professional group with very well-defined roles, communication from 3 different people, carrying the person through the process. There was a lot of people who suffered. The person was lied to many times, and they were laundering money through very complicated schemes. The exchange accounts were registered for different people, so they were quite professional. And we were able to get the ownership data for the account. And after KYC, we could, we knew that we can find the real perpetrator. Because if you think that a drop person would be the full protection, no, it doesn't work. Like after getting that data, of course, we got not only the client information, but also all the transactions. And we saw a very interesting story. We see $13,000 entering the account. The person enters the account, probably happy. Maybe she lost the VPN connection, and then the account is being accessed by another person. So, because of course they would not store the money on the account. Of course they send it somewhere else. So we got the IP address of a mobile phone, and then the authorities would request that the data to get information about the person. So there is hope that defense technologies would be developing in the same speedy way. And so learn the technologies, be on the good side. That's it for me. Happy to answer your questions. If you can scan the QR code, you can ask the questions. There are gifts for good questions organized. So feel free to. So press on the refresh button to get the new questions. Okay, so the first question is, how does the user check the address for not participating in the fraud? Okay, yeah, let me tell you. So the digital hygiene that is needed is, first you check the blockchain address before you get the money. So ask the person sending you the funds, get the blockchain address, and use the AML service. You can use our service, you can use Bitrace tool. So yeah, you can ask me my Telegram. I will give you 10 bonus checks, but only if you ask today. Or you can use some other service. There's a lot of them offering AML services. And this is definitely a useful idea, because to avoid blockings, it's important. Another thing that we see is there's more and more regulation leading to professional market participants starting to comply with those rules, including the big exchanges. So if you get dirty money and those money are used to then sent to the exchange, then the exchange would block your account. Like with a person who had a huge amount of money blocked and asking us about the reasons. They would say, yeah, AML is not working, you have some dirty funds on your account. Specific addresses were marked by the authorities as being criminal, and he would say, yeah, I have nothing to do with it. So of course we started the investigation, and the actual transactions, the fraudulent transactions, was 7 to 10 addresses apart. So that's why, of course, there were some transit accounts that were used. So please do check. Some of you would say, yeah, I cannot. Not in every scenario can I ask the person. So my suggestion would be create a new blockchain address, and then you check the sender. And if the funds are dirty and you cannot ask the person to use another address, then at least you can gather the needed proofs to say that this was a legal deal, because you will have the screenshots, all the agreements, everything. And do use the notary confirmation of that communication in Telegram, especially if you had a Telegram exchange about this.
Так, следующий вопрос, я надеюсь, я на этот ответил. Как вы считаете, доступ к людей наиболее уязвимым?
Access to which type of personal data would make the people the most vulnerable? It depends on the attacker, because any data can be used against you. In some specific cases, this information can be about the groups that you participate in, because this creates a lot of data for social engineering. In some cases, this is data about your passport. Any data, actually, that is not sanctioned to be publicized would create some dangers to you. But that's not a reason to, stop communicating with people and start becoming a hermit. But that's a good reason to be careful in communications, especially if people would use some data that are gathered from the leaks. Yeah, and sometimes just a good exercise to learn what the world knows about you. I do it often. Like, what can I find about myself? And of course, the passwords for different services should be different, because the leaks would have the passwords, definitely. And the most, of course, the most dangerous data are your passwords. What are the methods for de-anonymizing the crypto accounts, crypto wallets? Well, there's a lot of them, starting from deposit addresses to blockchain addresses, any mentions, any airdrop participation. Many services would fingerprint you, and then that data would be matched. There's a lot of information from different leaks. So, yeah, there's a lot of methods to de-anonymize here. And we usually do it the following way. I set up some bonus amount, and I say, launder this amount of money. If you do it successfully, then the bonus is yours, but your colleagues will be chasing you. If they find where where you send that money. Of course, then they will win that amount. And of course, I put some limits on what can be used and cannot be used. And this often opens a lot of new practices and new ways. So we then ask, who else has done that? And sometimes people would come and say, we know some blockchain addresses that you use. And I would be surprised. I don't publicize them. I don't participate in airdrops. I never put them to one single account. And they would tell me how they got them. So often those are things that are not 100% proof, like source of gas for the blockchain. And when you need the native token, you would get them from, for example, some exchange. Is it an anonymous transaction? No, not really. Because you can correlate this with other services usage. Usually, the patterns are the way to de-anonymize you. So one pattern would tell you nothing, but together, if you have like a number of them, then you can get as high as you want a probability of knowing that this is the exact person that is using. Will the blockchain lead to death of other formats? No, definitely not. People would publicize a huge amount of information about themselves in the social networks, not thinking about the consequences. And even talking with my wife about about what she publicizes, they would say, like, who would need them? But in reality, the fraudsters would find the good application, good usage to the specific data they found. And I'm sure this was not a targeted attack. They had a data set, they had an email and personal data, then using the mask they would put those data in and send it to many people. So, of course, there would be targeted attacks. They are much more dangerous because they're well prepared. So if you publicize some information, like I made a photo on my sofa, what do you have in your house? Okay, the things, the size of the house. So all that creates extra data for the fraudsters. Do you use DeFi for money laundering? Yeah, definitely. DeFi is being used. It's a very modern and interesting technology. DeFi enables you to exchange one token to another without any third-party participation. And the fraudsters would use it, of course. Does it help 100% to avoid fraud? No, definitely not. Does it anonymize fully the money? No. We can track the funds. There's no 100% probability, but anyways, it's a good idea to use them. What are the new initiatives and new solutions to stop crypto fraud? That's exactly what we do. We train our AI to find and identify the fraudulent transactions. We find the good addresses and the bad addresses, how they behave, how they transact. Because usually the normal user would differ significantly from the fraudster. Like, not many fraudsters would do farming or staking because it's time. It takes a lot of time. And the fraudster would do their best to launder the money and turn them into fiat, because it will be much harder to track the assets. Do they use Monero or Zcash, and how you work with them? Yes, they do.
Здесь есть несколько моментов, которых хотелось бы отметить.
And there's a number of things to mention here.
Дальше будет расти. И все, что
Because regulations are getting improved, and everything that's controlled, the government will try to limit, the listing of those coins, the distribution of those coins. And if we look at how most of the users behave in crypto, most of them would have interactions with centralized exchanges. Not because they are better, not because they do their functions better, like USDT exchange to some other token. Not because of that, but because they're intuitively easier. And for most of the users, this simplicity of using of the service is a cornerstone. They don't want to, store the seed phrase in some way, forgetting the password to my account is, a concern. So many things. And in terms of the coins, Monero, Zcash, and others, some criminals would use those coins. Are they easier to use? No, much harder. Can you still investigate with them? Absolutely. But it depends on the technology development and everything that was. Anonymous yesterday will not be tomorrow. And remember remember the Maslow pyramid. At some point, going up, they will make a mistake and they will be de-anonymized. What is the most popular fraud scheme currently, and what is the most interesting case you had? So the typical schemes would be, there would be around 20 of them. They are quite unique. We are surprised by the creativity of the attackers, but often we are surprised by their stupidity also. Because the person would say, come and say, like, I was,
вот зашел в телеграм-группу первый попавшийся, вот тут мне
There was a fraudulent scam implemented on me, and people say, the consultant told me there will be a lot of profit, and then he showed me the graph with tech analysis and said that everything will be growing and going up. I was in doubt, but then he put $100 out of his own money, turning them into $150, and then of course I invested $200, and he showed me that this is normal and legal thing, and out of $200 he invested, he was allowed to withdraw 100, and then I put another 1,000, and then I sold my car, my flat. There's a lot of such cases, and you're surprised by how people with poor credit score would still get 10 million from a bank and give that money to the attackers. So, and then they will say, you cannot withdraw the money because you need to pay the Italian tax office. Like, what's this craziness? Why is Italy tax service would accept the money from those money, but because the person is under pressure, and they create a lot of extra pressure, they make stupid mistakes, and they would go, looking for help. They would find the people and return money to me, but I paid them in crypto. Then they disappeared, and then the new lawyers would try to find
Мы-то занимаемся белым бизнесом, у нас юрлицо, у нас все как...
the
Мы говорим, ну хорошо,
those lawyers. So
это будет стоить столько-то денег.
because we are a legal company, we would say, no, we want to, work with you, and but our services would cost this amount. But of course, the person would say, no, I'm too scared of all the, the fraudsters, so you want to cheat me also. So it's very hard for people to get real understanding of
Почему используют
what's going on. They don't want to invest in their education. They don't want to dig deeper. So how do you track Monero?
туда, где деньги?
Well,
Это раз момент.
because
Второй момент.
of the exchanges. DeFi does not allow to transfer crypto to exchange crypto for fiat. So working with an exchange, you can do P2P deals. They would have fiat gateways,
То есть вы покупаете,
sending crypto directly to a bank card.
получается, с аккаунта, биржевого аккаунта на дропа кидается на карту,
Then
и, собственно, дальше выводятся вот эти вот средства.
to send money to someone,
И это просто.
to a drop person. So
Они всегда ищут
the fraudsters would
зачем. Ты пошел куда
use them because it's convenient.
вывел туда средства, потом
You would buy an account for 5,000 rubles, send the money there, and
и вывел вот эти средства. Как
send the money to the card. So
ну, опять же, биржи с учетом того, что
easy thing to do.
бизнес
But how do you track that?
на обмене,
Because the exchanges
и
depend
они любят
on
разрешение от правоохранительных органов. Они не хотят
transactions, and they earn on the exchange. They don't want their license to be revoked. They don't want any questions from the regulators. They would, support and help the investigation and give a lot of data about the fraudsters.
Так, сталкивались ли вы с отмыванием средств через создание и раскручивание NFT-коллекций?
Did you see schemes with NFT collections? Yes, we did.
Это действительно было очень распространенное.
For some time, it was a very popular scheme,
Группы мошенников, когда они создают,
usually used by more advanced
дальше наворованные средства покупают
groups
вот эти
of malicious actors. They would create those collections, buy other NFTs,
сложнее
but it's still solvable. Maybe a little bit harder than with simple schemes. The biggest issue is the time required, and usually the time plays against you, because if the attacker has designed the scheme fully, then time would be of essence. It will work fast for the attacker, but not as fast for us. The algorithm might be new to us. The smart contract will need some analysis. So the cases that we had quite a while ago are no longer investigatable.
которые должны были украсть.
Maybe if it's a lot of money, yes, but if
Посмотреть
it's,
всю энциклопедию криптомошенников
other big amounts of money,
и
it's
так далее.
Where do you find the encyclopedia for a
На самом
crypto
деле мы это
fraudster?
делаем вот эту
Why would you be
энциклопедию
interested?
правоохранительных органов, потому что есть
We create that encyclopedia for the authorities
понятно, как
because they don't know too well how to work with those cases.
Сейчас все превращаем в понятную
And
историю. И когда человек
that's why we work to turn this into
очень больших ценностей, которые мы даем, мы
a good and understandable stuff. So one of the biggest values that we provide
у меня тут украли
to the person
на сексе, потом я их перегнал на DEX, я потом их свапнул.
is understandability, because if the person would tell us the story of buying something in one place, then staking, then mining, then exchanging, then sending to some other place, of course the police officer would be like, what, why, how? They would not be even able to
Людей, которые понимают, как с этим работать.